Welcome, folks. Today we're diving into something pretty mind-blowing. It's about how what we call hell might actually be totally different from what the Bible originally said.
I'm all ears. This is intriguing. So what's the core of this twist on hell?
Well, it starts with the idea that formally hell as we know it isn't actually in the Bible. Instead, the texts mention things like Sheol, Hades, Gehenna, and Tartarus.
That's fascinating. I've always thought hell was just, fire and brimstone.
Right. But here's where it gets really interesting. Take Sheol, for example. It shows up over 60 times in the Hebrew Bible. It's depicted not as a place of punishment, but as a murky, shadowy underworld where all souls, righteous and wicked, just go.
Yeah, exactly. So you're saying it's more like a realm of the dead rather than a torture chamber?
Precisely. And then the Greek translation in the Septuagint calls it Hades, which over time got distorted into our modern idea
Sure, I
of
see
hell.
that. And where does Gehenna fit into this picture? It sounds super different from Sheol, right?
Absolutely. Gehenna is really a term that originally described a physical location, the Valley of Hinnom outside Jerusalem. It was like a garbage dump, a place where refuse, even bodies sometimes, were burned. Think of it like this. It's like if you had a backyard that turned into a fiery landfill rather than a divine chamber of eternal punishment.
Wow, that really shifts perspective. Jesus mentioning Gehenna wasn't about eternal suffering, but more about warning his contemporaries of immediate consequences, right?
Exactly. It's like he was using vivid, symbolic language. His words were packed with urgency, but not necessarily a promise of endless torment.
That makes me wonder, why did this distorted version of hell catch on then?
Good question. Over the centuries, various influences came into play. Medieval myth, Catholic fear tactics, and even Dante's Inferno, which, let's be honest, is more of a literary work than a scriptural map.
Right. Dante's depiction is so vivid. It's almost like a horror movie. But it wasn't really the Bible, was it?
No, it wasn't. Dante's work, while captivating, shaped our modern imagination far more than the actual texts did. The King James Bible later rendered these distinct terms as simply hell to serve certain ecclesiastical agendas.
Yeah, I get that. It sounds like the misuse of language here was deliberate, almost as if it was meant to control and, instill fear.
Exactly. And that's where scholars come in. Bart Ehrman, for instance, pointed out that the historical Jesus likely didn't intend for a place of eternal torment. Elaine Pagels even argued that the invention of hell served as a fear tool for controlling dissent.
I can see that. But don't you think some might say that the idea of punishment is fundamental to maintaining moral order?
That's a fair critique, but it's interesting. If we peel back the layers, the message might have been more about immediate accountability. Instead of eternal damnation, it was a call to live a life grounded in justice and communal responsibility.
Yeah, I understand.
Picture it like this. It's like if you were warned that your backyard might get trashed immediately if you didn't take care of your chores rather than promising you're going to be punished for life.
Right, so it's like a more rational, perhaps even compassionate approach. Instead of fear-based rules, it's about real-world consequences.
Exactly. And look at Pope Francis. Even he's hinted that hell may not be a place of literal fire, but rather a state of being separated from God.
That really flips the script on traditional thinking. Instead of a cosmic torture chamber, hell could be seen as a metaphor for what happens when we lose touch with our community and our values.
Yes, it's a shift from eternal punishment to a focus on transformation and renewal. Early Christians, in fact, believed in resurrection and restoration, not endless torment.
This really challenges the established narrative, doesn't it? I mean, if hell was essentially a tool for compliance, what does that say about the nature of repentance and redemption?
It raises a lot of deep questions. If our behaviors were regulated primarily by the fear of a misrepresented hell, then perhaps the real message was about preserving justice and community harmony, rather than instilling paralyzing fear.
That's a compelling way to look at it. But, don't you think some might argue that the fear of severe punishment has historically been effective in curbing wrongdoing.
True. But then you risk, perpetuating fear rather than fostering genuine trust and transformation. It's like using fire to warm your home but ending up burning it down.
Right, right.
And what's even more striking is the intentional translation shift. One word morphs into an entire concept. The move from Sheol to Hades to hell isn't just a translation error. It's a deliberate, culturally loaded decision.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing how one word, or rather one shift, can change centuries of belief and behavior.
Absolutely. And then there's Tartarus, a term that pops up only once in the Bible and relates to a mythological prison for fallen gods, not humans. This further proves that the term hell, as we know it, was a conflation of multiple, distinct concepts.
I see. So, when we break it all down, the modern hell is really a patchwork, a blend of Jewish, Greek, and later medieval ideas.
Exactly. It's manufactured through layers of translation, cultural reinterpretation, and even political manipulation. The evolution of hell is as much a story about power as it is about theology.
Right, exactly. That does put things into perspective. If fear was used as a tool to sway millions, what does that, imply about other doctrines we hold dear?
That's the big question, a real doozy. It suggests we might need to be more critical about how traditions evolve and who benefits from particular interpretations. It challenges us to re-examine long-held beliefs in light of historical, cultural, and linguistic contexts.
Very true. It's almost as if the whole narrative of divine punishment was a clever narrative strategy to maintain control.
Yes, and that very idea forces us to consider what we're really saved from and saved for. If hell as eternal torment is a later invention, then maybe the original message was about justice, immediate accountability, and ultimately community and transformation.
Yeah. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Were we manipulated into a mindset of fear instead of embracing a deeper, more humanistic approach?
Absolutely, it does. And while some might push back, insisting that fear-based control is a necessary evil, I'd argue that more recent insights, as even noted by modern scholars and some church leaders, point us toward a more empowering message.
I appreciate that perspective, even if I somewhat overestimate the value of such fear in certain historical contexts. It's a bit of a challenge, though, to fully let go of such ingrained ideas.
Yeah, it's a tough shift to make, but essential if we're aiming for a more just and transformative dialogue about faith and human existence.
Definitely, absolutely. And on that note, this re-examination of hell, delving into Sheol, Hades, Gehenna, and Tartarus, really gives us a lot to think about, especially when it comes to how we interpret sacred texts in the modern world.
For sure. It reminds us that taking the time to peel back layers of tradition can both challenge and ultimately enrich our understanding of the world, our history, and our beliefs.
Indeed. Well, thanks for walking through that labyrinth of ideas today. It's been, really eye-opening.
Thank you. Remember, sometimes what seems like forbidden knowledge is just a new way of seeing the old stories.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for listening. Until next time, keep questioning and exploring.